order the meeting, special call, city council meeting. Today is December 27, 2018. Time is approximately 5:01 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fairclough. Councilman Burgess. Councilman Ross. Vice Mayor Shelley.
Here.
Mayor Porter.
Here. We have one item today, tab 1, Mr. Manager.
Mayor, since you're all here, I figured I read the whole memo, if you don't mind, so we can get it on the record.
Okay.
In December of 2016, the city entered into an agreement with DLR Group for preliminary design services for the Cyberry. In February 2017, the agreement with DLR was supplemented to include final design development for the Cyberry. In February of 2018, the agreement was amended to include services for the bidding, negotiation, and construction phases of the Cyberry. The original design contemplated library services being incorporated into the 3 floors and mezzanine of the Cyberry. After negotiations with Miami-Dade County, a verbal agreement has been reached wherein the county will run a library in the 1st floor and mezzanine. Summary of the significant terms is as follows. City to give county a 39-year lease at the cost of $1 a year, after which the city may terminate for convenience. The county to guarantee running a library for the first 25 years of the lease, after which county may terminate for convenience. City to provide county with a vanilla box in the 1st floor with a mezzanine. County to be responsible for the finishes and FF&E. City provide 45 spaces at no cost to the county and maintenance for the term of the lease. County will provide the city with a letter of intent summarizing the terms, after which the city and county will negotiate a final lease, which will be brought back to council for approval. Terms of the city agreement with the county necessitate a plan revision to include the vanilla box for the 1st floor and mezzanine, and a cold dark shell for the 2nd and 3rd floors. DLR has submitted a proposal for the revisions, which is attached as Exhibit 2. The cost for the plan revision is $232,000. Once the plan revisions are finalized, the city will be able to complete its negotiations with Axiom for a guaranteed maximum price for construction in accordance with the revised plans. This item is being expedited in an effort to ensure the construction is coordinated with Axiom's ongoing work on Homestead Station. And also, a little background here. We, as you all know, we've been working with the county. The city has an agreement with the county and the current spot that they're located, which is city land, with a building that was constructed by the county. And there's been a lot of back and forth about what the city's obligations might be to them in the event that they're asked to vacate. And so this agreement that you see before us is for the architectural services, but it ties into what we've been discussing with the county, which is if they agree to operate the library portion of the Cyberry, what does that do for us? Well, the first thing it does is we no longer would have any obligation to the county for the value of the building that right now under the existing agreement would require a third-party appraiser to appraise the building, and then whatever the third-party appraiser determines is the value of the building, that the city would be responsible for paying them. The county's appraisal, according to the county, they claim that building is worth $3.5 million, and that's what they'd like to get paid. If they don't participate in this downtown project, that would be their position, is that they would want $3.5 million. So we've negotiated this hybrid Cyberry plan, which would in essence have the library portion of the Cyberry being run by Miami-Dade County. It would be basically the 1st floor and a mezzanine, which is roughly 18,000 square feet usable space. They would be responsible for all operating costs. And then the 2nd and 3rd floors would be part of the phased-in approach here so that we can continue on our way trying to raise the funds necessary for the technology portions of this facility. This plan that DLR, assuming you approve it tonight, they would be designing a 3.5-story building, and that will incorporate the needs of the county library service for the 1st floor and a half, which is what we're calling vanilla box. Vanilla box is basically air conditioning, all the HVAC system, electricity, everything is flooring, but it's one giant open space, and then the county would be responsible for fitting out all that space. So the costs of the actual interior facility would be borne by the county. And also, the other piece of good news with this agreement is that the county plans to have a brand-new collection. So whatever you see in the current facility, which is somewhat dated, they have committed to having a brand-new collection in the new facility. So the library portion of the Cybrary would be significantly larger than what's currently available over there on US 1. We also would have on the second and third floor, we're calling it cold dark shell because it literally is they pour the slabs, they enclose the building, and that's it. And any interior finishings, any of the, all the HVAC and the other things that make a building livable is usable. That would have to come once we have the funding in place for the Cybrary components. So the reason we asked you to a special call meeting is that we'd like to move quickly to get the designs finished because we do have some funding. I call it the free money portion of this program, which I always committed to you all with the Cybrary idea was that we wouldn't go to the taxpayers and ask them to raise their taxes in order to do this project. We would not obligate them to something that downstream is going to end up costing them, where it's going to end up raising their taxes. And so we've been out there looking for free money, and each of these tranches of money that we have identified, each of them come with funding deadlines. And what we really have is a good portion of that is the HUD money, which we don't want to lose, and we want to start getting building as quickly as possible. So the idea here is get DLR to design the 3.5-story building, in essence, redesign what we currently have, because there's certain elements to the original design that we want to keep, and then also have that HUD money ready to go. Once we have the designs, then we have permitting. We also have to get the letter of commitment from the county, which we've seen some versions today. We're almost there, so if we have that by the end of the today, we'll have that for you. It's, I would say, 95% of the way there. From that, that goes into lease negotiations, and then from there, once we have that, which we'll have to you, then that goes to the county commission for approval. Whether this is going to take 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months, we're not sure yet. We don't know how smooth or not their process is. In the meantime, we'll be working with permitting and then getting the guaranteed maximum price from Axiom, so that at some point our hope would be late winter, early spring to have a contract approved, and then we start the building. Now, there's a lot of detail in between that, but another couple of items that I think are important is this 40-year-old agreement that the county had, with the city had with the county library system. There is that unknown about how much you would have to pay the county for that building, assuming they ever were required to vacate. And consolidating those two parcels, the old City Hall property plus this library property site, the property is very valuable consolidated. And so if the city ever decided to do something downstream, you'd be facing the issue of how much do you have to pay, potentially millions of dollars to the county. So you won't have that anymore if this all goes through the way it's planned. And also, and it creates a lot more flexibility as well as cost avoidance. It also provides you with the ability to really design that site. You know, we've talked on and off about potential for office and high-paying jobs, and have this as a real job center in the downtown. So if we in the center of the city, if in fact that goes forward, we really now have two very valuable parcels that are consolidated, and the avoidance of millions of dollars of costs that might have to be paid to the county. The other piece is, as we start trying to figure out what do we do with the second and third floor and what our funding opportunities are, our hope would be to still be able to integrate many of the Cybrary technologies with the libraries. They will control their operation, but for example, if we do augmented reality, can you check out the headsets on the second floor and then bring them into the first floor and still have the experience of having the animated bookshelves and all the other things that the library had envisioned. So we still have a lot of dialogue with the county. We're hoping that this will end up being a very cooperative relationship moving forward. And the first step is to get the architects working and then get all the paperwork done with the county. And then meanwhile, we'll go on our merry way with the fundraising for the second and the third floor.
One of the things that I thought was interesting in one of the last meetings that we had with the mayor and the library staff was the mayor's instruction basically to the library folks to bring in a 21st century version of, because they've done it in some other communities, and we hadn't heard that in this long dialogue of conversation with the county or the library folks. So that was, assuming that stays in place. They're not going to come in with a plain Jane, just books only sort of a library, is what I understood.
That was the mayor's direction to them. We'll obviously see what their plan is as they develop it, and also how amenable they are to incorporating some of the concepts that we have in the library on the first floor. If for example, as you look at the circuitry was one of the attractions that we had, well, we might be able to utilize some of our funding sources to help them to install that circuitry in there if they want that. But we didn't want to clutter the preliminary discussions, because it was hard enough just to get this basic structure. And I think there is a big difference between the mayor's vision, and as you get into the nitty-gritty with the bureaucracy, it becomes a little more cumbersome, because they think about, well, if you install the circuitry, who's going to fix the lights and who's going to reboot the computer, and they get into the weeds of the vision. So that's going to be the back end phase of this.
But this started out as a discussion with the wall, is basically what it was. It was really, there was no open-mindedness on the county side to even meet anywhere in the middle. So
they have a basic model that they've kind of committed to, and when you introduce very significantly different concepts for what a library is, they obviously have their own thoughts.
But they loosened up a lot. I think your staff did a really great job of laying out, and giving them, helping them see what we've done and the commitment that we've done. We told the mayor 2 years ago, we were going to build this city hall. He came down and did a tour. We told him we were going to do the Seminole Theater. We told him we were going to do the parking garage. We told him we were going to do all these things, showed him pictures, and then staff put together a great, basically tour showing, okay, this is what we said we were going to do, and here it is. This is what we said we were going to do. Oh, here, walk inside, look at it, touch it, feel it. It's exactly like what we said we were going to do. Right across the street, this construction project, that's what we told you we were going to do. This is what's being built. So I think that really had a lot to do with changing his concept of, we're not just blowing smoke. And when we talked about it from an elected position, the elected officials in this community wanted that library downtown. Wasn't as much for the property, wasn't for much for the value. We wanted that property, we wanted that project downtown with our development. And I think that had a lot to do with, because when we first met with him, he had the wall built up too. And so I'm going to get a little compliment to the mayor for adjusting his position and listening to our side of the story rather than just his staff side of the story, coming down and taking the time to see what we're doing. And he seemed to really much more be on our side, at least giving his staff direction to work more closely. And that's why we are where we are. That's why we can be here today to talk about this. So I have to give a little kudos to the mayor.
And thank you for your help as well, and attending some of the meetings with him, and also touring the downtown and kind of helping communicate the city's vision for the downtown and for this facility.
Well, he needed some help from us, and we helped him, and we needed some help from him, and he's helped us, and that's what makes the world go round. So are there any questions from council? Ms. Fairclough?
Yes, thank you. Have we ever received a GMP from Axiom, or once, if this is approved, then we'll get a guaranteed maximum price from Axiom?
Once the DLR completes their construction drawings and we're not sure yet whether we're going to push for the GMP before permits or after. The safest method is to get all your permits first, because sometimes through the permitting process, somebody says, oh, you need more sprinklers or you need whatever. So it's either going to be before, after the permitting, or slightly before that, but that's when we'll have a final number. They had submitted some preliminary numbers, and if you remember, we went to California to do some value engineering, and one of the things everybody came up with, which ended up being a big savings with really no change to the quality, was to do tilt wall construction instead of the poured in, and that was basically a big savings for us. So that changed a bunch of numbers, and then of course some of these other changes we'll do. One thing we were discussing today with the staff and the lobbyist is some of the ways we design some of the interiors. If the county looks at some of the elements of the library and say, that is a pretty neat idea, maybe we keep some of those designs as well. So we're going to test the waters with them now once we have the term letter to see. And then once we know exactly what we're building, then we'll negotiate a final agreement with Axiom, and then we'll bring it to you for approval.
Okay, I just kind of wanted a frame of reference, and I remember those numbers that they gave us with the tilt walls and all of that.
So we're thinking right now roughly $6.5 million for a 3.5-story building, plain vanilla on the first floor and a half, and then cold dark shell on the second and third floor. Those are general numbers. And then if we finish the second and third floor to plain vanilla standard, that might end up being somewhere between likely $4 million. And then after that, for the Cyberry components, it'd be a square footage. And we're working with Landmark now to figure out, now that it's the second and third floor, what would they anticipate per square foot for the cost of the attractions. Also, they'll have an easier time knowing whether some of the attractions will be accepted by the county library system. So if they say, that circuitry is a really neat idea, maybe, they'll say, okay, let's do it. Or they may just say, oh, you know what, we don't know anything about, we don't like circuitries because we're going to do, a Greco-Roman motif, and that doesn't fit in with our vision. We know what they've done in Hialeah Gardens, and it's a very plain space. So whether they're going to agree to theming or not, I'm not sure.
Also, so new market tax credits, that's officially off the table?
No, they basically have said that we're still in the game until they find another project that that's ready to close. So their basic premise is the project has to be ready to close, and we consider our project ready to close when we have everything signed, sealed, and delivered from the county, plus Landmark, plus the investors. So we've been reluctant to say we're ready to close. If you close prematurely and then you don't deliver a product, they could foreclose on the property. So we didn't really want to have that. And I promised you all we weren't going to create any financial exposure for you all. So that's where we've been saying, look, this thing is taking time, and we're going to do it carefully. And if they stay in, they stay in. If they don't stay in, if they find another project that's ready to close, up until now, it doesn't look like they've had another project that's ready to close. So whether that's in January or March, or we're going to kind of ride the wave with them, because it's potentially $3 or $4 million worth of free money that we hate to part with. But, we'll see how that goes.
I thought it was more than that.
Well, it was going to be somewhere between 4 and 6, depending on, we had 2 projects going. We had Homestead Station, and we ended up clearing, after all that money, it cleared about $800,000. So we have that, and then this one here, it depends on once everybody gets their cut.
And then my last question, has Landmark, have they garnered any interest on potential investors?
They've had a lot of interest. They've had a lot of meetings. They've been flying all over the world. It's just, and the one investor that seemed like they were ready to write the check, their requirement was that they wanted to be able to collateralize the building, and state law does not allow that. So that's the reason why they weren't, at some point they decided not to invest, because they wanted security for their money. And so this is more of an unsecured transaction, so there's a greater element of risk for them. And so he's had a lot of meetings and a lot of interest, but raising money, as you know, takes time. And, we've been able to raise money for all our other projects, but, time is the issue.
Oh, sorry, this is my last question, I promise. With the HUD, how has that impacted us, or has it not impacted us, the
But
HUD money?
it's impacted us in that we want to be able to spend the money before they try to claw it back. And also, it impacted the negotiations with the county because their first version of this was, you build us a brand-new library, including all the fixtures and the finishings and everything, and then you give that to us in the form of a condo, and at any time we can just leave. So if we had done that, which we had no interest in doing, if they left, we'd have to pay HUD money back. You have to, if you use HUD money, that facility has to be open for 5 years. We negotiated a contract with them, we negotiated an agreement, it's not yet in lease form, but that they've committed to being there for 25 years, and it's actually a 39-year lease. So it's a long-term commitment. So the HUD requirements actually helped us try to secure that commitment from them.
So use it as leverage.
I think so, yeah. We used it as leverage, and it also gets us some certainty and commitment. And, the upsides and the downsides, one of the upsides of having the county is that they're more likely to stay in business than with a private company, you don't know. So at the very least, no matter what happens here, assuming we solidify this with the county, we will have a brand-new library that's larger, much larger than what we currently have in the downtown, with a brand-new collection that we bear no financial responsibility for in the operation. So many of the cities have tried to get that, and they've had to pay a much bigger price than we have. So in that regard, just on that piece alone, we got a really good deal.
Okay, thank you.
Amen. Any other questions from council? There's three people from the public here. And I can't count Larry. He's not the public. He's the reporter.
You can't count.
We got two. One in the back.
Oh, that's
and
two.
One in the back.
That's just two.
So either one of you two people that just walked in have any questions regarding this issue? You're the only people anybody from staff have any questions? Any questions from the dais? Well, you know you're doing something right when nobody shows up to complain. So that's all I can say. So I open up the public hearing. I've closed the public hearing. Any final comments?
Thank you for coming. I know this was a tight thing for all of you to come at this time of year, but it's an important thing.
We need to move this ball forward, because this, we've had a struggle getting the county to even really participate with us.
Do we have to now say all nice things about you again? This is your final meeting?
No, we've done that. We've done that. We might have another special call. Just so we can say goodbye.
Perfect.
Okay, public hearing's closed. Any final comments from council? Is there a motion? Is there a second? Moving to second. A roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fairclough? Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Burgess? Vice Mayor Shelley? Mayor Porter?
Yes. Motion carries.
The motion carries.
Anything else, Mr. Manager? Mr. Attorney? Anyone from staff? Anyone from public? Anything? Nothing? Is there a motion to adjourn? You want us to hang around for a while? Okay. How long you want to stay? We'll extend the meeting. No. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.